In case you didn't know, over the past few weeks, every single MLS team on FC24 was updated. That means it's basically a new league because every team has new kits, new tactics, new managers, and also lots of new players. This is probably the best time of the year to try the MLS. If you've been subscribed for a year or more, you'll know how much I love playing in the MLS. If you're bored of playing in Europe, a trip to North America can make things feel totally new. The league has dozens of unique features, and we can recreate almost all of them inside career mode, even if they're not officially part of the game mode. At the end of this video, I'll share how I do this for every single rule, including the MLS Superdraft, which really should be part of the base game. So anyway, why would a save in the MLS actually be the most fun save out there? Well, no matter what type of save or club you like using, the MLS probably has you covered. There's two fully licensed cup competitions, the MLS Cup and the US Open, that you can win, and you have a balanced league where almost any team can win the cup in Season 1. You also have a ton of big name players in almost every single squad. You might have enjoyed using people like Wanyama, Benteke, or Timu Pukki in the past on old FIFA games. Well, the chances are, if you pick a random MLS team, you'll have 2 or 3 players like this in the squad on day 1. Don't get me wrong, I really enjoy playing with absolute nobodies that I've never heard of in Poland and Norway, but the fact that you can randomly face someone like Lorenzo Insigne or Shaqiri in one game, and then play against Messi and Luis Suarez in the next is undeniably a pretty fun experience. The MLS is also perfect if you have any kind of interest in either US culture or other US sports. If you know anything about or have a favorite team from the NFL, NBA, NHL, or the NWSL, the Women's Football League, then you have a perfect starting base for a creator club team. You could even try and copy a team from the expansion list, but I'll talk a little bit more about the expansion list in a minute. This isn't really the case in Europe though. If you like another sport, you might like basketball. Madrid, Barcelona, Olympiacos, and Monaco are just football teams that have a basketball division. If you prefer a UK-based team, then cricket and rugby teams are probably our best options, but these are more based around counties, which is the same as a state. It's almost impossible to translate something like a Formula 1 team into a football team, so you don't really have this same level of detail. Instead, if you copy something like an NBA team into FIFA career mode, then you have kit ideas, you have stadium names, you've got a location where the club is based, and of course you know what kind of fans are going to be supporting this team. This really makes Creator Club in the MLS probably the best place on the game to do it. This is even better because basically every single city in the USA is famous for something. You could create a team based in Las Vegas, which is heavily rumored to join the MLS in a few years' time, and you could make some really risky transfers, see if you can be successful that way. If you don't like the sound of that, you could take advantage of something like Minnesota's Scandinavian heritage and make a team full of Danish players. It just adds to the backstory of your career, and almost every city or area in America has something like this that you can base your team around. If we go back to that really risky signing part of that Las Vegas idea, then signing new players is also really fun to do in the MLS. Realistically, basically any player is actually willing to join the MLS, just as Messi proved last summer. As long as the player isn't starting basically every game in the Champions League, I'd say they're probably a realistic transfer. Even the highest rated player over 30 in FIFA, Kevin De Bruyne, has given a hint that that's where he sees himself playing in real life in a few years' time. While I'm not sure what certain region of the USA is best for a Belgian, I do know that certain nationalities do tend to go to certain cities. Busquets, Messi, Alba, and Suarez are basically all Spanish at heart, and they've moved to the Spanish-speaking Miami in Southern America. French and Italian players seem to prefer moving to places like Canada or New York, while Mexican players prefer Texas and California. If you have a team in one of these areas, it's so easy to find players that fit in, and it just easily adds another layer of fun and also realism into your save for almost no effort. As well as adding realism and fun, it also adds a lot of replayability into the MLS. Maybe in your first save, you'll just be trying to win the MLS Cup and the US Open double. In your next save in the MLS, you could be trying to do the same thing while only trying to sign Spanish-speaking players at LAFC. The save after that, do it with only English-speaking players in New England. Because Spain and England produce such different kinds of footballers, you've got 2 very different saves going on right here. Maybe one year you're using tiki-taka football with Alvaro Morata at front, and the next season you're relying on long ball because you've got Andy Carroll playing up front. It's a totally different way of playing football, football, but it's all possible to do it in the same league thanks to the amount of teams and cultures that you can find in the USA and the MLS. Don't get me wrong though, this league really isn't perfect inside career mode. It still suffers from the same annoying things that others do inside FIFA. It could be better if they added the USL, which is the second division of soccer in the United States. Even though there's no promotion or relegation in America, the clubs do still produce some decent players and also should be there to play in the US Open Cup. Lots of these teams actually get quite far and have very regularly actually beaten MLS teams. The Canadian Premier League would also be quite fun to add because it would add more Canadian players for you to scout if you're playing as one of the 3 MLS teams that are from Canada. While we do have the ability to scout young academy players from Canada, having a separate league that produces decent players could be massive for this league. It would also be massive for the entire continent because Canadian teams would be added into the CONCACAF Champions League. You used to get similar preseason tournaments that would give you 4 American and 4 Mexican teams, and you would of course have a group stage and a knockout round. You could pretend this was the Champions League, but since Mexico was removed from the game, they no longer appear in preseason. This means there's no Champions League and no way to do anything like the Pentagon Challenge in North America. The last thing that I'd change is having the rules in-game so you don't have to keep track of them yourself. I would say the salary cap is probably one of the most famous rules in the MLS, and this should really be in the finances page because it's already basically in there. It would just need a couple of lines of code. So yeah, the MLS could be even better, and with the 2026 World Cup coming up and being hosted in America, it's actually a great time to learn about a new system in a new country while still enjoying some of the best parts of career mode like youth development. I'd also really recommend that you make a new team while you learn about this country because San Diego FC are the next team that's going to get added to this league. I think they're really worth creating because they're owned by an Egyptian billionaire and a group of Native Americans. The team is going to join this league in 2025 and their kits will be silver, blue and orange, so no matter what you make inside career mode, it's going to look realistic because there's no official kits released just yet. I think it would be quite a fun save if you could use some of your Egyptian connections to bring through a generation of African players to the MLS. Nigeria, Egypt and Ghana are all very common nationalities in America, and Ethiopia and Kenya are also common, but of course you will need the PC version of the game to mod in these youth academy nations. So hopefully by now you know why to play the MLS, why it's fun, and who to create if you're interested in doing that. Let's talk about how we can keep it authentic. With there being so many rules, it can be quite hard to follow, so if you're struggling to follow along, check the video's description where I'll paste this full list for you to read at your own speed. Okay, so let's start with the salary cap. It's not really a hard limit, but the first 20 players are known as the senior roster. They're called this because their salaries count towards the team's annual salary budget. You're also allowed to spend $2.7 million on any one player's salary, provided that they'll make an instant impact to the league. The rest of your players are going to average about $7,000 per week, but in addition to this, you're also allowed to sign 3 players who don't count towards this cap at all in your squad of 30 players. Loads of leagues have salary caps though. Next up is something unique to America and the MLS. The Superdraft takes every football that graduated university that year and puts them up for selection by every single MLS teams. There are 3 rounds of picking, so basically you get to pick any 3 players you want, but the order people pick is the reverse of the previous season's league table. This is actually really easy to do in FIFA. As the season ends in November, just send out 3 scouts to Mexico, the USA and Canada. I'd say get the best ones you possibly can, or it might be a little bit pointless to play the game in this way, but after your scouts have been scouting for 9 months and the season has now officially ended, you just pick 2 or 3 players from each of the scouts' reports. Quite a few players will have already been taken by other clubs, and honestly, that's exactly how the Superdraft works in real life anyway. The last thing you need to know to play your save in an authentic way is the homegrown player rule. This means that you can sign literally anyone homegrown for any salary and they do not count towards any other rule. Beyond the draft and salary cap, the league is actually correctly modelled in-game. It's seen as this super complicated division, but really it's quite simple. You simply play your division rivals twice, and then every team in the other division once. The top 6 from each division goes to a knockout tournament, and the winner of this gets the MLS Cup. Sure, there's a few more stages than in a traditional league, but basically it's the same as playing the EFL Championship and winning the playoffs. It's a different experience, but one that I really do recommend you give a go. If you're an MLS fan and you've noticed any mistakes in this video, please do let me know in the comments so I can correct it if I ever make another video on the MLS. It's actually quite hard to capture every intricacy in such a short video, but if you want to watch me playing some MLS career mode, please do subscribe because I've got a full season coming out very soon. Why not check out the playlist or the video that's on screen right now instead though, and thank you for watching. I'll see you soon. Cheers and goodbye.